About 10 o'clock last night, I'm sitting there, the demons start to, creep into your head.
Yeah.
And I was in the cabinet and I ate macadamia nuts last night about 10 o'clock.
One or like?
Yes, one bag of macadamia nuts, 14 ounces or something, probably about 3,000 calories.
Oh my God.
Hey, we're on.
And we're on.
Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Fletch.
How you doing, man? I'm good. It's good to see you.
It's great seeing you.
It's been a couple of weeks.
Love the shirt.
Thank you very much. We were out in Park City.
At Fletcher's.
My wife went to Fletcher's. Yeah, that's a restaurant in downtown. I stayed in with the guys and watched the USC LSU football game.
Why would you watch that?
Well, all of my family are USC graduates. My wife's family.
Wow, what's going to happen November 16th? Because that's when the Corn plays.
We go out there and play. Yeah. We've been invited to go out, but we are not going just because it's kind of inconvenient at the end. But I have to be honest with you, man. And I think I made apologies for this last time when we had Aaron and Katrina on the show.
Yep.
I rooted for USC, which I've never done before, simply because they are now part of the Big Ten.
Yep.
And, if the other Big Ten teams are more successful, I think there is some bump to the teams I root for in the Big Ten.
You can justify that any way you want to. I'm just not going to buy it.
It is embarrassing.
I'm just not going to buy it.
It's terrifying.
I can see in your mind, you're like, how do I sell this?
Yeah,
this is like the Thanksgiving dinner.
We live in a world of rationalization, man. Right. We rationalize everything.
Yeah. I get it, though.
So how are you?
I'm good.
You do look good.
Feeling good.
You look a little bulkier.
Yeah.
Do you feel a little bulkier?
Lifting some weights.
Good, man.
Yeah. Taking some creatine.
Good. Oh, good.
Put on a little bit of weight. Yeah. Today, folks, people, friends, neighbors, we're talking about our routines. We're talking about supplements. We're talking about things that we do, but we're basically, as two old guys who don't want to be old guys, but what do we know? What do we do every morning?
That's a great question. And why? I think.
Why? Yeah, because we do get some questions. Some people have said, so you talk about the vitamins, you talk about the stuff you take, but you don't really get into the detail as to what it is and why and when you take it.
Mm-hmm.
And we hadn't really thought of that.
It's kind of a complicated orchestration to get all of this stuff right. And I'm not even sure we're getting it right. We talked before we started recording a little bit about something new that you're doing that I think would be really fascinating, and I think truly is the direction that all of this will have to go at some point. Yeah. But on the subject of why, I was listening to Peter Attia, who always talks over my head, but he appears to be a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
And he asked me this morning when we were, not me specifically, but he was asking the question, what are your objectives? So I think we all need to, it is a why question. Why are we interested in this? Why do we exercise? Why do we try to eat right? Why do we take supplements? Why do we do anything? Give me an example of your why. You don't want to age. You don't want to be an old crotchety old dude.
Yeah. I just want to have an enjoyable last, let's call it 30 to 40 years.
Well, that'd be ideal.
So what do you have to do today to make sure that happens?
And what is it? What does that mean to you?
Enjoyable. Feeling like I do today.
Okay.
Right? So flexible, being able to work out, enjoy working out, and playing with the kids and the grandkids, and not being held back by anything. First of all, physically, and not being that guy like, oh God, my hip hurts and my knee hurts and whatever. I can't do this or that.
So you don't want those limitations?
No limitations. Yeah.
Okay. So to be able to do what you would like to do.
Right.
I mean, not necessarily to be able to do what you did when you were 20.
Right.
But to be able to do the things that you enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't be sedentary. be able to just, whether it's walking around the block or going for a run or playing 36 holes of golf or thinking about challenges and not having something physical be the limitation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you could say that about the mental elements as well. You don't want to have the mental limitations.
Right.
Hopefully.
Want to constantly be challenged. Want to constantly be doing something that just keeps making me a little bit better, right, every day. And I know it's not for everybody, but I do think there's a lot of folks in our camp.
Yeah, I would agree.
But for so many people, it's like, well, where do I start? Well, you just start.
But I think that question is an important one. I think
it is. It's a critical
because
question.
I don't think I certainly haven't given it an in-depth analysis why I do this. To some degree, I do it out of habit because it's been something I've done for so long. Yeah. But I'm starting to, I'm kind of recreating myself here. I mean, I'm going to be Medicare age in less than 30 days. It's coming soon. And I think it's time for me to kind of reinvent myself to some degree. Yep. So I've been thinking a lot about what that next chapter is going to be and how I'm going to approach it. Nutritionally, from an exercise standpoint, having always been kind of a weightlifter guy, but with not a lot of other things. I'm not a cross trainer by any means. I think it's time to start looking at what you just described, new challenges. I mean, I go to the gym now, it's almost robotic. You just kind of go through the motions, and I'm not sure that's productive. So I'm taking a serious look at some of what you have inspired me to do, truthfully. Some of these other, like I'm making this list in my mind of what I can do as an alternative. Walking, rucking, which is walking with some kind of weight. I do have a weight vest.
Oh, do you?
Looks a little tactical, which makes my neighbors nervous, but I have a weight vest.
How many pounds?
I think it can go, there are little plates that you put in it. Maybe it is a tactical vest. I don't know, but I think it can go up to about 60 pounds total, but you can start at 10.
Yeah, cool.
And work your way up. So I'm thinking about even like incorporating a little bit of light running, biking again. I have a bicycle. My wife and I have bicycles. I'm thinking about adding some bicycling to that. In addition to, I say this with looking around, like I started doing some basement yoga.
Okay.
Can you imagine me doing yoga?
It's so good though. It really
But I started doing the YouTube. I pulled up YouTube and I typed in old man beginner yoga, and damn if there aren't a bunch of those options.
It's so good.
So I've started doing a little yoga.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get away from just pushing weight. Yeah. And I'm going to keep doing that.
But you realize variety also,
I think,
comes back to the original question. And it's funny. So I work with a lot of companies and CEOs of companies and do some consulting with companies. And there's an old,
turn my mug around here so
there's an old thing I guess, technique where you just sit with them and say, why'd you start this thing? And it's funny how when you unpack, it's like, what are your objectives question? It's like, why are you doing this? But the more you keep asking why, and then what's that mean with someone, you get to the root cause and originally why they were started a company, what problem they were solving, what unique solution, and you kind of see the energy in their eyes come back. Whereas maybe they've been in the business forever and they're beaten down by meetings and bureaucracy and this and that and another thing.
They've kind of forgotten that original
why. Why'd you start this thing? Oh, well, let me go back to the beginning and here's why. But tell me more. What's that mean? And well, this is the problem I was solving. And why were you solving that problem? What did it mean to you? And so when you do that with yourself, you kind of step back, and you just said it a few minutes ago, like, okay, why am I doing this? I do want to have a better quality of life. And yes, I like lifting weights, but you know what? To be better at weightlifting, maybe I need to do some yoga. And it's why you and I experiment with so many different things.
Yeah, that's really is the key. And as you said earlier, I mean, just a new challenge.
Right.
To do. I've never been a runner. I don't like running. And I don't intend to go out and be a runner.
Yeah.
but I do intend to incorporate some running into my regimen.
Why?
I think that there are aspects of cardiovascular fitness that I don't really tap into very much. When I was lifting weights more intently, more with intention, there was more cardiovascular component to it. When you're squatting heavy or deadlifting heavy or something, there is a cardiovascular burden that I think is useful, but I don't do that anymore. I don't really lift.
So do you lift to failure, or you just say, I'm going to do 8 to 10 reps in 3 sets?
I pick body parts and volume, and some days I'll try to lift heavier, and some days I try to lift more volume. So maybe a lighter weight with just more repetitions and things.
Okay.
I'm experimenting with some new exercises because I've always done the same exercises traditionally. I'm looking at actually joining a gym. I've gone to the same place for about the last 15 years. It's primarily just free weight type stuff. So you have to kind of. So last time I went into the gym, I just did farmer carries. Familiar? You just grab some heavy dumbbells or something and walk with them. I did farmer carries alternating with dips.
What'd you notice about that?
I really loved it because it's not something that I haven't done dips or farmer's carries for quite a long time. I was looking for something new. I did 10 sets of each, so I just alternate for 10 sets. I'd walk about 20 yards with the kettlebells. Then I'd go do a set of dips, and then I'd go back and forth.
And that was the whole workout?
It was the whole workout.
That's pretty interesting.
It took me about 30 minutes. Wow. I mean, I had a little bit of a warm-up and stuff. And it felt pretty good. I got some legs. I got some, hands, some grip strength. The dips kind of do shoulders back, chest, that kind of thing. It was pretty good. Pretty good. And I was out of there in 40 minutes. And it was novel. It's not something I do routinely, so I enjoyed it.
Do you think 30 to 45 minutes is what people should aim for?
I think you should aim for getting to the gym or going to your basement or something. Yeah, if you could do 30 minutes or 45 minutes, maybe that would be. But
what's your routine? So like
this morning?
This morning. Because I want to unpack how you do that and why, and then what you take and why, and say, and then
we'll kind of do like Christmas morning where we're just alternating back and forth. You open one, no, you open one. I don't want to open my last present.
How many do you have?
I only get 2, so I don't want to open them all at once.
Dave would be furious, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Dave, he opened 2. Yeah, that's right. We had a lot of that. My mornings are somewhat dependent upon work. If I have to get up early and go somewhere to work, it kind of throws me out of my routine. But on a day like today, I actually slept in. We got up about 7, which is pretty late typically for us. Generally earlier, and we have dogs, and so the dogs have to be taken out. They are both, they're walked on leashes. We don't have a fenced-in yard, so I'll get up. This morning is just I take care of I take my shower because that helps me move. That warm shower, I typically turn it cold for a minute or 2 at the end and scream a little bit just to get, the blood flowing, so to speak. I don't know if that makes blood flow or constricts blood flow, but it makes me scream.
Right.
And then I do take some prescription medications in the morning, so they have to be taken on an empty stomach. So I take a thyroid medicine, levothyroxine, pretty standard medicine. So I take that in the morning. And I take a blood pressure medicine, losartan. So
you've gotten issues with blood pressure, and why do you take the other one?
I have low hypothyroidism.
Okay.
So low thyroid activity. So I take the thyroid medicine to try to increase thyroid activity. I take the losartan. My blood pressure has never been extreme, but it was higher than the AMA likes.
Yeah.
And so my cardiologist, put me on it. Back when I first had my first incident with AFib, my first episode. And so I started taking a blood pressure medicine, pretty low dose, I think, pretty mild. But I take those in the morning. Get up, and then my first actual activity is I drink a glass of water I brought it LMNT.
Oh, what's that?
LMNT is, I'll unpack some of my stuff here. This is that
Is it
Electrolyte supplement.
It's a powder?
LMNT.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not a pre-made drink.
It is not a drink.
Okay.
I'd mix the powder into my water. So I'll
use
take
one
about
whole packet.
There's a packet in here. It's got 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium.
Doesn't magnesium make you sleep?
Magnesium can be good for your bowels. It can be good for sleep.
Okay. So this you take first thing in the morning.
I take this first thing in the morning.
Okay.
I drink a big glass of water. I mix one packet of Element into it, and I drink that first before I start drinking coffee or anything else.
Okay.
So I'm getting that first. Then I take the dogs out.
Okay.
And so we'll go for a walk. The dogs will take care of their business.
So you're getting some sun.
So I'm outside first thing, hopefully in some sunlight.
Yeah.
Getting a little bit of sunlight in my eyes. Kind of resetting that circadian clock, you know.
Okay.
Then I bring the dogs in. Then I make my first cup of coffee. I brought that.
Oh, yeah,
Nespresso. I'm not endorsing that tool, George Clooney. But I do drink. My wife and I like the Nespresso, the little capsule you put in there, you know.
Yeah.
And so I drink a cup of coffee. Then I feed the dogs.
Okay.
And then I watch them eat. I don't eat in the morning typically.
Yeah.
So
because you're doing a fast, like a controlled fast, or is it just part of your habit?
It has become a habit.
Okay.
I did it originally years ago as part of that kind of that ketogenic intermittent fasting protocol. And so I don't eat breakfast.
Okay.
And it's just become a habit now.
Yeah.
And I find that I feel pretty good.
And you break that when? Sometime
I
mid-morning?
typically break my fast around the noon hour somewhere.
And you've stopped your last meal the night before was when?
Well, are we being honest?
Unless there's Doritos.
That's interesting. That this is a difficult one for me.
Yeah.
And when I was very disciplined, I would eat dinner typically around the 6 to 6:30 time frame, 7 maybe, and then I would stop eating.
Okay.
And then I would not eat anything until noon the next day. So I'd go from maybe 7 p.m. Until noon the next day. I lost a lot of weight. I felt great. I just don't have the fortitude to do that anymore. So I ate dinner last night, finished probably 6:30, 7 o'clock. About 10 o'clock last night, I'm sitting there, the demons start to, creep into your head.
Yeah.
And I was in the cabinet and I ate macadamia nuts last night about 10 o'clock.
One? or like...
Yes, one bag of macadamia nuts. 14 ounces or something. Probably about 3,000 calories.
Oh, my God.
You know how they're just all fat.
They're so good, though.
They're delicious. And I think they're a decent source of decent fat.
Yeah.
But I don't need to be eating them at 10:30.
True.
So I have my own demons.
What would that do to your sleep? Any idea?
I don't have any idea because I take Ambien.
Okay.
So the Ambien will help me get to sleep.
Okay.
Whether or not it interferes with the quality of my sleep, probably.
Yeah.
I would assume it does.
Tracker or anything?
I don't. I don't have a sleep tracker. Well, I have a wife who
elbows you,
tracks my sleep if I'm snoring or if I'm doing other disturbing things. She'll hit me with an elbow or something.
Right.
I don't get up a lot at night. The Ambien will typically keep me asleep, I think, for about 5 to 6 hours.
Wow. That's great.
It is good.
That's really
I don't know what the quality of my sleep is.
Yeah, I'll bet you'd be fascinated with that if you start
It would be interesting. I've done the apnea tests, the home tests before. I think those are preset to, yes, you have sleep apnea.
Right.
So that you need to buy this other shit from us.
Right.
I don't,
That's so true, though.
It's just a given.
Yeah.
If you come in for the test, you have apnea, and you're going to need the CPAP or whatever other device.
Right, totally.
I tried that for a while. We can talk about that another time.
Okay, so you take that, you drink your coffee.
So I take my coffee.
And then do you work out? Or
these two things are every morning, coffee and Element.
Got it.
That's my morning routine. No, I typically don't work out in the mornings. I'm going to go work out after this.
Okay.
So I'll go to the gym after this. Probably lift weights.
Yep.
Because that's what I do, right?
That's what you do.
But my intention is to Like we walked last night.
Yeah.
We walked about 2 miles last night when my wife got home from work.
Good.
So we'll go out and do that. This weekend, I'm going to try to run.
Yeah.
You know, if I can get through a half mile on the track.
Totally, yeah.
It'll be
something
momentous.
Yeah.
So that's my morning.
So stay tuned.
That's my morning.
What about your supplements that you take? Do you take those in the morning or in
I don't take many supplements in the morning. I have to take the levothyroxine on an empty stomach.
Oh, okay.
And so I typically don't take anything that would have to be caloric first thing in the morning. Yeah. But like, for example, if I was going to eat earlier, and there are days when I do, I might eat at 10, maybe have some eggs or something. I would typically just eat mostly protein, fat and protein.
Okay. How many calories a day do you do you track it?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't track calories.
Okay.
I do try to optimize protein.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's my first consideration. So last night for dinner, I had like a 14-ounce sirloin and a bunch of green olives.
Sure. Got it.
And I cook it in ghee.
Yeah.
Clarified butter, and I put butter on it. That good old
butter.
Kerrygold butter.
Yeah.
That good Irish butter.
Yeah. I love that stuff.
And, I might have a little bit of carb, but maybe some vegetables or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like the night before, we had salmon in the air fryer.
Oh, cool.
Which is good. And then we had Brussels sprouts.
Wow.
Nice. But, man, we'll get to these other supplements I take. Let's get into your morning routine.
Yeah. So
you have a really interesting morning routine.
As you write it down or you think about it, it's way more complex than I realized, but it's routine.
It is routine. It becomes routine.
It's what you do.
Yeah.
And so like today I was up at 5:45.
Do you wake up or do you set an alarm?
Alarm. Yeah.
You wake up to an alarm?
Yeah. Yeah.
But does that
I
increase
did wake
your cortisol levels? Does that increase your stress when that alarm goes off? Or does it not disturb you
Not
anymore?
at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Just get right up.
Okay.
But like today I woke up at 4, couldn't get back to sleep, laid there for a while, like maybe I should just get up. This is stupid.
You thinking about work or something? Or?
Yeah, just a lot of stuff spinning through your head. And then, my neck hurts. And maybe I should. So you lay there for a while and all of a sudden it was 5:45.
Yeah.
So I got up and like you, drink a big glass of water. I found that just kind of sets the
It
base.
does.
So try and get
good
8
to
to
do.
10 ounces of water.
Okay.
And I'll make a double espresso, and I make an 8-ounce glass of athletic greens.
Oh, AG1?
Yeah, AG1.
Yeah.
And some of this stuff, if we remember, we'll put it in the show notes to reference what it is and the whys. So we'll put that in there so you can check it out.
Do you take any meds? I don't mean to pry. I mean, this is like this is a HIPAA show, obviously.
Yeah, nobody's going to.
You take meds in the morning?
No, nothing.
Good for
nothing
you.
in the morning. And I typically read till about 6:30. So I'll read stuff and
if you don't mind is that what it is typically? What is it you would read in the morning?
There's a Bible app that I start with, and it just kind of sets the tone.
Absolutely.
And then there's an app I have for reflecting on things you're grateful for.
I love that, man.
And then
That's
it
really
leads you to just, even if you have to think about, what am I grateful for today? Well, you know what? It's a nice day.
I feel pretty good.
The sprinklers are on. The grass looks pretty good. I'm grateful for that.
There's a lot of things to be.
And then there's other things that are a lot more dramatic, but it's sort of like when you're like, wow, this is actually the important stuff.
Yes.
Okay. So now, and then I read the sports page of our local newspaper because the front page is just like so much garbage, and then there's absolutely nothing interesting in it until I get to the sports page.
Yeah.
And I'll have to say the sports page I only read this time of year.
Football season specifically.
Yeah. So just read about that. And then I usually work out always. So 6:30 or so. Today was cardio. So it was. And
you work out at home typically.
I work out at home. Yeah. So it was a combination of the elliptical, ran on the treadmill, and the rower.
No kidding.
So I'll do maybe 2 to 3 combinations of each. And
like 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes?
Yeah,
or
15,
how would you formulate
15
that?
of each. Like the elliptical is a nice warm-up because it gets your back and your arms and your somewhat your legs, but elevates your heart rate kind of into that, what they, the zone 2.
Right.
You want to be in that conversational zone.
Right.
And then the treadmill might take it up from zone 2 a little bit into zone 3, and then the rower is more of this. Yeah. It's not a high intensity. One day a week, I try and do like a high intensity interval workout
HIIT
training. And that's either on the treadmill or on the bike.
Okay.
And then
so you have a stationary bike as well.
Yeah.
So you have all of this stuff.
The whole full package. It's great.
Good for you, man. Okay.
I love it. Yeah.
So you can go from
it's my little area. Yeah.
Nice.
So and so I'll do that once a week, and then weights. Learned a lot from you on the weights. I'm trying to do at least 3 times a week.
Very good. Excellent.
And
for 30 minutes, 20 minutes?
30 to 40 minutes. I've been timing it a little bit.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And just working different body parts, but like 3 sets, 7 to 8 reps, almost to failure on the 3rd set.
So you're right in that strength to hypertrophy range.
I was doing that body pump I think I told you about. And that was super high reps, very lightweight. And I wasn't just seeing anything. I wasn't getting stronger.
I don't love that, man, truthfully.
And it was just kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm trying this, and I'm just going to see
that's a good range.
But then I finished that this morning, and then I did the sauna. So I have a clear light sauna. It's an infrared sauna. Did that, and that was like 150 degrees for 20 minutes.
So it's not steam heat, it's infrared heat?
Infrared heat. So it heats you from the inside out.
That's nice.
Theoretically, and you sweat like a pig. And
there's a lot of benefits to that red light therapy from what I'm reading.
Yeah.
What I understand.
I just don't know enough about it. But, I read about it like, well, that makes sense. Okay. I don't like the suffocation of the typical sauna.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is, it's just a different, really gets your muscles nice and loose. Sometimes like this morning, I only did about 7 or 8 minutes of yoga in there as well.
In the sauna?
In the sauna.
Okay. And
then 4 minutes in the cold plunge.
At what temperature?
Today was 54.
Wow. Is 54 degrees really cold?
For me, it is. There's people that go into the upper 40s, but for me, it's the first 2 minutes are hell, because the first minute you sort of hyperventilate.
Have to regulate your breathing, get it
and
under
then
control.
at 2 minutes, I start the box breathing.
Okay. Yes.
Like
the 4 bys.
Yeah, and the pulse goes from mid 80s down to upper 50s. It's really interesting.
That is interesting.
And then I think, as we've talked in the past, beyond 4 minutes, it starts to just be diminishing returns.
Probably. That's what I've heard.
4 to 5 minutes.
What do you have to tell yourself before you get into that cold water? Is that routine for you now too? Or do you have to like coax yourself in there?
No, it's hard, but this comes back to the why. Because I know finishing off a cardio day with sauna and cold plunge, I'm going to feel great.
Feel great.
It's the right minuscule step for me to take right now, because when 95-year-old Mark looks back and says, "Hey, thanks for doing that," because it
that's interesting.
Prolonged your life. All right, and suck it up. Let's go.
Yeah, interesting.
But then
will 95-year-old Mark still be doing it?
Oh yeah. Right now, easy to say.
Yeah.
Because I just love it. I mean, the energy it gives you and the focus it gives you is just second to none. So that whole combination of things. And then I weigh in, and I do.
You get on a scale every day?
Every day, yeah.
Does it ever fluctuate?
Oh, yeah. And
an ounce?
No, it's been, I've put on about, let's see, as of this morning, about another 8 pounds since we started this thing. So I was 170 when we started. I'm like 177 this morning.
Good for you. Well,
but it's not fat.
Yeah, I was going to say, you feel good with that weight?
Yeah, because my clothes actually, nothing's really shifted.
Yeah.
But I just feel stronger.
Good.
Better, and I think it's probably the right weight of where I'm headed. This thing that you and I were talking about, this Life Force program, I also do a blood pressure check every day.
Do you? You have a little
thing, you just put it on.
Okay.
It's called Whiting's. I got to write that down.
Okay. Checks your blood pressure.
Yeah, it's
Is this post-workout?
It's pre-workout.
Pre-workout? Okay.
Pre-coffee, pre-everything. Just sit there, take the blood pressure, and then let's just see where this thing is. And I think this morning it was 107/62.
Oh, my gosh,
Which is pretty good.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So do you take any blood pressure medication? No blood pressure medication. You're 107/62.
Right. Resting pulse is like 57.
Wow. That's really fantastic.
Which is good, but that's what I want it to be. Again, it's like the why. The 95-year-old Mark is saying, okay, you're doing the stuff when you were 64 that made me at 95 feel really good. You know, maybe you don't notice it in every single day, but it's that little thing, I think. Now, you and I may look back when we're 95 and go, can you believe we did that?
I hope I'm looking back at 95. You know, that's part of the objective, right?
That's the why.
I mean, that's part of
why we're doing this. Yeah,
exactly.
And so that's the morning routine, and then it's the supplements.
And that's every day. Is this every day, or how many days a week do you do that?
The sauna and cold plunge is typically cardio days, so that's 4 times a week. Yeah.
I'm impressed, man.
Well, thanks.
I am absolutely impressed. That is.
Well, it's not easy, but
it is not easy.
As Jane always says, you know, are you done taking care of yourself yet?
When can you take care of the rest of us? It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
I'm preparing for that.
It takes a while, but I just feel like, okay, then, you know, I take my supplements, all of my stuff, shower, hit the day.
So let's go over the supplements. You've not eaten yet. I haven't heard you eat anything yet.
I haven't eaten. And I go back and forth on that. All the stuff I read is like, well, you should actually eat something to give you more strength when you work out. And I don't know. I have
no objection to eating in the morning.
Really?
Yeah. I typically don't eat first thing in the morning because I don't feel like I need any food at that point. I'm doing pretty well. I find sometimes after I eat,
I'm pulling up a photo. So
I have a little bit of like mental fog if I eat, you know, and I like to think that my mind is clear in the morning. That's typically when I get most of my more intense work done, if I'm working in the office or something. So I typically don't eat in the morning. But, you know, some mornings I get up and eat first thing.
Yeah.
You know, 7, 8 o'clock, I'll have some.
So you just gauge it by how you feel.
I kind of gauge it by how I feel at this point. It's not quite as strict a regimen as it at once was.
I mean, I don't know how long I've been doing it, but I don't typically eat past 9 o'clock.
In the evening?
Yeah. It's like I see it's 9 o'clock. All right. And then I will eat at somewhere between 9 and 10. I don't know. Something.
Okay. In the morning.
Now, I don't know if you can count this, but
you've already been up. You've done quite a bit of work.
Yeah.
You've probably depleted blood sugar if you have, you know, muscle glycogen available. You go through that workout in the morning.
Got to
probably do need to replenish a little bit of that. So 9 or 10 seems reasonable to be eating it.
So I don't know if you consider that a fast. I don't think that counts at all, but it's something I just do. But I do try and track the calories.
Mm-hmm.
So I try and stay right around 2,000 a day. Granted, you know, it's tough to measure some of this stuff. You go out to eat, it's like, well, what is that?
You really have no idea.
You have to guess.
But
if you're in that area and you know it's not like a double Whopper with, you know, extra mayo or something, you're probably okay. But so I'll finish off everything. I was just looking at this picture because you and I were going to have show and tell, but it's like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 14 supplements that I take.
Okay.
Along with 5 different powders and Emergen-C, which is vitamin C.
Yeah, vitamin C, absolutely. And so, what did your sister tell you? Your sister is
my
a
sister
healthcare
Julie,
professional?
she's a nurse, and she said, "Well, that's great. That's just really expensive urine."
Yeah, man, you should be actually bottling that urine. You could be selling that like downstream, so to speak.
It's a byproduct.
That could be a secondary market, maybe.
Right.
But yeah, okay.
So it's things I take like
Yeah, let's go ahead. Sorry, choking.
Yep. I brought some of them along, but I'm in this program called Life Force, which
that's really interesting.
We think, advocating for yourself is so important.
Critical. Yeah.
And traditional medicine doesn't really advocate for you. And you have to start, this goes back to why are you doing this? And I didn't really know, am I okay or am I not? Or what are all these measurements and what does it even mean? Sometimes I'll go to my doctor and he does a great job of explaining my blood tests, but I don't know. Now what?
Yeah.
He's like, well, he'll say, your DEHA is in this range, and for guys your age, you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this range.
Right.
I'm like, well, but you know what? It looks to me like it's low. Don't worry about it. Right. Because for guys your age, this is fine. Well, is he comparing me to
guys our age?
A 350-pound guy my age? Or
I mean, the majority of, and it's not judgmental.
No.
But if are you really going to compare me to other 65-year-olds when I've been living this lifestyle for quite a long time? Right. Is that a fair comparison? I've always questioned that comparison as well. You're within the range, or even if you're outside of the range.
Yes.
Even more importantly, you're outside of the range.
It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Popped up red on the little piece of paper or something. And all of a sudden, they're sending you to specialists and the alarm bells are going off. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm outside the range in some respects.
Right.
That's not intended to.
Why don't they meet my range? Yeah. I just want to know for my lifestyle, for what I'm trying to do, for people that are maybe like us, maybe we need to flip that script a little bit. And I came across this Life Force program. So basically what they do is come in to your home and they draw blood, and they say, let's start with blood tests. And then they create this report. This is through this questionnaire. I forget how many questions it was, but it was very thorough. Like, oh my gosh, okay, well, you do work out and you do try and do this and you do try and watch your nutrition and you do this and here is basically all of those things combined with the blood test. Here are the things that we should be watching. Okay. Not here's what a 65-year-old should be in what range. And then a clinician gets on a Zoom call with you for about an hour and a half and goes through every single one of them, but makes sure that you understand it. Like, okay, here's the things in red we're kind of concerned about. Mm-hmm. And these are things that may lead to fill in the blank.
One of the diseases we're trying to avoid.
Right. They're all about preventative care. So you got to start with measurements and data. And now let's take this stuff. Here's the stuff in yellow that can go this way or that way. We're not quite sure. And here's the stuff in green where you're just doing great.
Looks good.
Yeah, you're doing great. And they come up with this thing called biological age, which doctors will roll their eyes at. But I'm 51 in biological, what they consider biological age, which is great.
Mm-hmm. That's terrific.
I mean, I'd love it to be 31, but it's one of those things like, okay, all the stuff in your lifestyle that you're trying to do combined with the blood test and the data, this is where you are. However, there are some things we're concerned about. Do they sell supplements? Of course. Are they overpriced? Absolutely.
That's the nature of the industry.
And so I'm trying it. I've only done one. I've got another one coming up September 30th.
So you have the month evaluation coming up.
Yeah,
so
they do it every quarter. They do it every quarter. Every 3 months they test your blood because they say, okay, this is low. Let's start taking this.
And see if we can get it to move.
Within your nutrition, some things you got to probably cut back on.
Did they give you nutritional advice?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll talk about that a little bit.
So they go through kind of like if you track it on MyFitnessPal or something else, they kind of take a lot of that data and look at it and say, okay, the protein is great, but it's not the right protein. I mean, we really need to kind of kick it up with the natural whey protein, or let's stay away from the milk isolates. And even though you're only getting 125, let's make sure you get the right kind.
Okay, interesting.
you're way overboard on vitamin C, for instance. You know, you don't need to take that much, but your body gets rid of it.
Yeah, I was going to say that might be contributing to your expensive urine. But it's not a big deal,
but
right?
It's like toxic. What carbohydrates? Now, let's really parse that out.
What was their opinion on that?
There's good and there's bad, and there's the gluten concerns and all of that stuff. But it's like switch the breads to something like a Dave's Killer Bread, which zero sugar, excellent fiber.
Yeah, it's living in the bag, actually.
Yeah, isn't
it? I mean, it's alive.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
So it's like, let's shift a few of those things out and let's see where we land. Okay, not major changes. Let's be careful.
But I love the fact that they are periodically reviewing the markers to see what effect these changes are having and what effect the supplements are having. This is something that I think is a real problem and is terribly expensive, kind of the shotgun approach to supplementation.
Yeah.
You know, I heard somebody smart say, take this. And that's what has affected me. Somebody smarter than me said, you need to take omega-3 fatty acids, or you need to take taurine now because it's, promotes muscle growth, or you need to take nitric oxide, or you need to whatever. And I'm like, I've got a whole house full of supplements, and I don't know what effect they're having on me necessarily, whether I need them, whether what I'm taking is adequate. You know, we all heard, during the plague, you got to take more vitamin D. Everybody, all of a sudden vitamin D really started to hit and I think my doctor told me to take more vitamin D. I think your program told you to take more. I think that is something that people who age probably need to consider supplementing. And we are by no means giving advice here.
No, not at all.
We are talking specifically anecdotally about what we do.
Right.
But like you, I take 5,000 to 10,000 international units of vitamin D combined with the K vitamins every day.
Yeah, because that was one I think we were talking about, was vitamin D.
Yeah, it was low on your profile.
Was low, and so it's like vitamin D with vitamin K1 and K2. What does that do?
I wish I could tell you, man. Yeah. But everything that I have read and heard suggests that they need to be taken in combination.
Yep.
You need to take the vitamin D3 with the K vitamin.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, I'm learning about this stuff because I would listen to whomever and you start going, who do you believe in this stuff?
Yeah.
Because there's an ulterior motive. Like, you should take this stuff. And by the way,
we sell it.
And you go, oh, okay.
But you're doing it the right way.
So I'm going through this to just see. It might all be a total gimmick, but at the end of the day, and somebody goes, well, what's that whole thing cost? I mean, it might be a couple $1,000 a year, maybe $3,000 a year, but
oh man,
how much is a visit to the ER?
Well, in the whole scheme of things, I bet I drop the same amount, if not more, on arbitrary supplementation.
Yeah.
So knowing, at least having some scientific basis for making these decisions, I think it's worth the cost.
It's what, you look at all the money that the government spends on people that have disease, and you just think, man, what if they would just start this when people are in their 20s?
Yes.
And just say, it's part of healthcare, and it's what we should, because it's preventative.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is incorporate these two things. Imagine how much money we would save over the next 50 years if we did something.
Well, Mark,
like that.
You have just destroyed the economy with this preventative health, rather than responding to symptoms and disease the way that we do.
Yeah.
Prevention, early.
Yeah.
I mean, this is another thing that Attia talks about in that in his book, Outlive. He talks about, why don't we start doing this prevention earlier?
Yeah.
Rather than just responding to symptoms when you're 50 or 60 now, and you're going into your doctor complaining of certain symptoms.
Yeah.
Start this 30 years earlier. I think, but I'm not sure there is incentive within
people
the
don't know, but it's like I go to the Nebraska football game and this gal comes and sits down next to us. She's got to be 400 pounds.
Yeah.
And she's got a 84-ounce Coke and 2 Runzas, and I'm like, does she not realize that she may not live another 5 years?
Right.
You know?
Well,
and so it's education. It's
yes.
I don't know.
Well,
but
and you're right. She may not know.
Yeah.
She may know, and she may have just given up hope.
Yep.
She may have just resolved herself that I can't change this, and she's given up. Or she may not know, but shame on us as a community for not better. Maybe that's on her doctor.
You remember the presidential physical fitness test?
Absolutely. I loved it.
I wonder why we got away from that.
That
was Kennedy, right?
It probably was Kennedy.
And
climbing the ropes.
Yeah.
We used to run obstacle courses in the gym. All of those things.
How we doing, Dylan?
Oh, we got some time left, man. I actually wore a watch. You wore a watch.
Watch.
We're doing pretty well.
I need a break.
You need a break?
I need a bio break.
We're back. Short break. Hey, we're 65 years old, for God's sakes.
Yeah, give us a break.
Don't criticize us for having to take a break now and then. So, this is a whole new territory for us. Here, man, I'm going to give you one of these. Try that out at some point.
Oh, okay.
I think
you take the whole thing?
I have to put the whole thing?
Okay.
It's the whole thing. Dude, I'm a creature of excess. I mean, that, if one is good, two's got to be better. That's always been my philosophy.
Clearly.
Well, let's talk about, I brought this other stuff, so I'm going to talk about some other things.
Yep.
This is Baja Gold Salt. I mean, I was looking in my cabinet. I've got supplements and things stashed all over the house. So some are in the fridge. Like I keep omega-3s in the fridge because they can be a little bit sensitive to heat.
Okay.
So I've got stuff in the fridge. I've got stuff, on my counter in the bathroom. Things that I take.
How do you know if something's sensitive to heat or not?
Read about it.
Okay.
Typically, I think some of those fats, like the omega-3 fatty acids, they oxidize in heat. Like you can't use certain oils to cook with because they become rancid when they get hot. When you heat them up. So, but this is something that I just got turned on to not too long ago. Baja Gold Mineral Sea Salt.
Okay.
This is a pretty highly rated salt. I mean, if you just use Morton's. Out of the blue jug thing, iodized. It is almost in just pure sodium chloride iodine has been added to it. Typically, not always. You might want to check that. But these sea salts, Baja Gold in particular, this has like a mineral profile, like potassium, magnesium, kind of like these elements.
Okay.
Particularly, you hear about this a lot. So it's kind of expensive, like this bag of salt probably costs $10.
Oh my God.
And so
people are used to buying the jug.
You buy a jug of the Morton stuff for $2 or something.
Do you know that was invented in Nebraska City?
I did not know that.
Invented. J. Sterling Morton.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's that family.
Well, I go to that place. We go to the museum all the time.
And when it rains, it pours was his daughter was the model for that.
Really? I did not know that.
It's called garbage can intellect. You remember that stuff.
But you still remember it.
But I remember it.
So, really good mineral profile. When you do if you've ever done a ketogenic style of diet, they always talk about the potential loss of minerals.
Okay.
And even if you listen to people talk about our food industry, the soils have been somewhat depleted, the vegetables and fruits and things you're buying, with the assumption that you're getting all of these essential minerals and vitamins, which isn't necessarily true any longer. So,
and what do you use that for? Cooking or just adding to drinks?
I sprinkle it on meat. So
after you cook it or during, doesn't matter.
You can pre-salt things to cook them, or just sprinkle it on. So I typically just take a little bit, sprinkle it on if I'm cooking something.
You ever tried it in coffee?
I have not, but I've done bulletproof coffee before. Speaking of bulletproof coffee. This is from the gentleman that came up with Bulletproof, Dave Asprey, I think is his name. Yeah. Uh-huh. This is MCT oil. This is 8-carbon, C8, MCT oil. And he calls it brain octane.
Love that.
So MCT oil is a really interesting compound. I started taking, medium chain triglycerides, MCT. You've heard of, fats, fatty acids, long chain fatty acids, medium chain, short chain fatty acids are kind of what your gut bacteria live off of. And so medium chain triglycerides came into my world probably 35 years ago, maybe longer, when I was lifting weights with a little bit more intensity and interest. There was a guy out of Cincinnati, Ohio. His name is John Perillo, and he was a bodybuilding coach. And he came up with a C8 medium chain triglyceride supplement for his bodybuilders. I was not
a pill,
a bodybuilder. It's a liquid.
It was a liquid. Okay.
It's an oil.
Yeah.
He called it Captri, that he gave his athletes when they would start cutting out carbohydrates in preparation for a bodybuilding contest. These are extreme dieters. The folks that do that's not my world, but the folks that do that would go into extreme carbohydrate depletion, and but he would supplement with MCT oil.
Interesting.
It is
mixing it in with.
You could pour it on food. You could mix it in food.
Can you cook with it?
You could probably cook with it. You could put it in coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, Asprey promotes that Bulletproof coffee where you put a tablespoon of good butter and you pour some MCTs in there. You blend it up. Yeah. You get this nice, frothy, delicious coffee.
Yeah, I'll make an espresso with MCT oil and half tablespoon of butter.
Kerrygold?
Kerrygold.
Attaboy.
Every time.
Exact. And it is delicious.
Yeah.
And it is satisfying. And MCT oils, and again, this is just my lay understanding of this, they are metabolized a little bit more like a carbohydrate rather than like a fatty acid. So they are a little bit more readily metabolized as an energy source.
Yep.
They promote ketone production, which ketones are, kind of an alternative fuel to glucose. But there's a lot of information, and the reason I'm taking them now as a grown man, not as a 30-year-old weightlifter guy, is because of there's a lot of research that, as I understand it, that suggests that ketones are really good for your brain.
Yeah.
They're actually good for your cardiac muscle. They are utilized readily as a fuel source by your brain. And so they are in my regimen as a nootropic, as a brain health. And he calls it, interestingly, brain octane.
So it's different than, like, you'll see MCT oil you can purchase at Whole Foods or something.
Yeah, you can buy it. You could buy MCTs.
But does it matter that it's C8 or just MCT oil? Doesn't matter.
That's an interesting question. It's also, it's kind of a derivative of coconut oil. So you hear people talking about the benefits of coconut oil, and coconut oil contains this to some degree as a subset. So I think in the world of MCTs, there are C8, C10, and C12.
Okay.
That is just a carbon chain.
Okay.
8 carbons, 10 carbons, 12 carbons.
Got it.
But the C8 specifically, Captri was C8. That was it. This stuff Perillo.
So you use that 3 times a day?
No, I might use it once or twice a day.
A tablespoon, or it's a...
Yeah, I think it can have some effects on your gut. Yeah. I mean, it can disturb some people's intestinal tract. So, I would recommend, if you're going to try this, you might use a teaspoon at a time. Yeah. Not too much. Now, I just pour it on.
Yeah, okay.
Because my gut has adjusted to it.
Yeah.
But I will typically, if I make eggs,
use that.
When I get home from the gym, I'll make probably 6 eggs, and I'll just kind of scramble those up.
6 eggs.
And I'll pour MCT oil on it.
Yeah.
And that'll be my breakfast.
You scramble them?
Scramble them, typically.
Tomatoes? Anything?
Nah, I don't eat that crap. But, yes, I could. I mean, you could eat a tomato or something.
I suppose you could.
Yeah, if you had to. Like last night when I make my sirloin, the 14-ounce sirloin, I pour MCT over the top, put a little butter on it. I'm not suggesting this is healthy, mind you.
So good.
Let's not get crazy. And the last thing I'm going to mention is creatine.
Okay.
So I brought some different types of creatine creatine monohydrate, creatine is just a precursor in energy production, right? I mean, adenosine triphosphate, the ATP molecules that we all want, creatine is part of that.
And it's 5 grams per.
This is the gummies,
yeah,
which are really easy to take.
Yeah.
I don't know what the research says about how bioavailable it is if you eat it this way.
Right.
But man, and they are like 1.5 grams of creatine per.
So if you're starting with creatine,
yeah, if you want to get a smaller, you might try this
because you build up to, say, I think you've said before,
I do between 5 and 10 a day.
5 and 10 a day.
5 to 10 grams a day. This is just a scoop. It's just powder. Right. It's a little bit more difficult to take because you got to put it into a shake or something.
Now I've read
put it in water.
Micronized creatine.
Microionized, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that supposedly is
maybe a little bit more easily absorbed.
Right.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
But you don't need to spend a ton of money on creatine. Is fairly inexpensive.
Tell me why you take it.
Well, it is probably next to caffeine, which is also nootropic, is also good for your brain in appropriate amounts, is my understanding, which is why I take it. And energy, it kind of wakes me up in the morning. Mm-hmm. Creatine it has been heavily studied. People always, I can remember, I went into the hospital when I first had my AFib. This is 2010. And the hospitalist, some dimwit that was, working in the emergency room, was asking me about what are you on? What do you take? What do you whatever? And I said creatine. He's like, oh
my God.
He freaked out. You got to get off that. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
You can put all your.
It's proven that it actually is a big benefit.
It is just so heavily researched that I think a lot of the mystique and all of that. It used to be a weightlifting drug. Right. It kind of good for. I think you hold a little bit of water. Mm-hmm. It always makes my joints feel better, my knees and elbows. I retain a little bit of water when I take creatine.
But the benefits
not a ton, but it's good for muscle development. It's good for recovery. Yeah. But once again, the studies that I've been reading and hearing about suggest that it also has brain health effects. It is good for energy production, right? I mean, your body is producing ATP in the mitochondria constantly. It's how my mouth moves, my hands, constantly. And, your cardiac muscle, your brain, which is like the largest energy user in your body, they need ATP desperately. And so to be able to assist in the replenishment of that, in my opinion, and from what I read, is useful.
Yeah.
So I don't take creatine for the weightlifting effects any longer. I take it for my brain. I think a lot of what I take is intended, my objective is brain health.
Interesting.
I don't want to be a pile of goo. I don't want to be.
That's the why. It comes back to.
That's my why. So many of the supplements I take are intended to be.
Pile of goo. Is that a scientific
Yes, that is a
term?
Well, my doctor said that. You're a pile of goo. And so, not for long. But so, I don't mean to, make light of all this stuff, but
it's important.
These are what I take with the intention of keeping my brain relatively healthy. And
that's funny because the creatine, where people were saying, well, it's the weightlifting drug, the football players.
It's always been a weightlifting drug.
Now they're all going to be idiots. But then they realize after years and years and years, wait a sec, there's joint benefits, muscle benefits.
Yeah.
What's this impact on the brain? Well, this is interesting.
If you Google it,
wouldn't you rather,
without question,
have a healthy brain, or would you rather have dementia?
There's no choice.
Sign us all up for not having dementia.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can do those little things today,
right. And I think the people that have taken it in the past or earlier in their lives for the muscle building, weight gaining benefits of it. Should consider continuing to take it. I know that if you're a big football player, maybe you don't need to weigh 300 pounds in your grown adult life, but the benefits of it, I think, are becoming, if you look at the Mayo Clinic websites and these other, the health websites, I think they are all on board with the fact that, you know, the ability to increase energy production for your brain and other parts of your body is useful.
It's out there. And you know, most physicians are, Western physicians are, they'll roll their eyes at, oh, you read that online? I see. You know what? The information is becoming a lot more mainstream and a lot more proven out if you just look for it. And that's why things like this are so interesting to me, because like the guy in the hospital said, you got to stop.
Right.
Or
immediately.
Like, you know, my heart rate was elevated and this doctor goes, well, you got to stop caffeine.
Right.
So are you kidding me? It's been 61 years of my life has been caffeine. I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Is it really the caffeine, or are there other things? So you have to advocate for yourself, which is frustrating, but it's one of those things that as we age, you know, where do you find that information, and how do you then process that information, and then bringing it back full circle to, wait a minute, why am I doing this again? Oh yeah, I want to be conversant. I want to be able to move. I want to have fun the rest of my life. Right. And are those three things going to be able to be impacted by what I'm doing? Should I take a Flintstones vitamin, or should I take one of these vitamins? You know, probably should research this one over here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sugar in these. There's not in these. And these are a little more. I mean, it's all of those things.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, but I think once you get on the rhythm and start to narrow that stuff down.
Yeah. And you don't have to go hog wild with all these supplements. I mean, you and I have spent a lot of time researching them, and we're experimenting. And I am willing. I've always been willing to experiment with myself to try to figure some of these things out. I'm not suggesting that everybody needs to experiment, and it's kind of costly. Yeah. I mean, it's not cheap to do this experimentation. I think, you know, if you sleep well, try to eat whole foods that don't have huge ingredient labels on them. Right. You know, try to exercise with some regularity, you can get tremendous benefits. But, you know, the things that, I mean, I probably, if I couldn't take any other supplements, I would probably still take creatine, caffeine, and then if I had to pick, I mean, maybe that high mineral salt or something, just because I think our food sources are so depleted of minerals and things.
Natural stuff,
You know, I mean, I'm going to keep trying and experimenting, but I think what you're doing is the future, where you are actually doing a scientific analysis of what your marker levels are.
I hope so.
I think that's really fascinating.
We'll keep sharing with you how it's going, and you know, it's coming up, my next one, and we'll just kind of see, am I improving or not? But it's. I just am fascinated with it. And if you have the data and you know what to do with it, you can come back to it and say, is all this making sense?
Yeah.
Is it prolonging my life in a healthy way?
Yeah. And
what do I need to do to change it if not?
Right. And have I been able to affect those numbers through supplementation?
Right. Yeah.
Does it even work?
Does it work, or is it just
you take waste? A ton of supplements that they aren't absorbed by your body. You know, and they're not bioavailable. And so, like your sister suggested, maybe you are just passing those things because they're not in a form that is readily available to your body. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, we'll keep sharing with you, and, you know, any concerns, questions, comments, absolutely just let us know. We're starting to pump these out, and we love to share these things with you. But as we always kind of joke around, what do we know?
Yeah, we don't know much. But we're trying to figure it out.
We're trying to figure it out, and we'll share it with you. And, you know, thanks for spending your time with us. I'm Hase
Fletch.
We'll see you guys.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah, great weekend. Go Big Red.
Go Big. I was going to say, is it okay to say that?
You can say it. Even
absolutely okay to say it on your own podcast.
Yeah, even though your family might not agree. But
oh, well, some of my family won't, but I'm rooting for them.
Thanks.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
See you guys.